Established Rich coming right back at you. And today we got to talk about a move that changed the energy surrounding Pooh Shiesty's case without any new charges being announced. This is about Pooh Shiesty and his attorney, Bradford Coyne, stepping away from a federal case he just stood in front of cameras and defended with full confidence. And when I say this shifted the energy, I mean that in a real sense, because anytime you see a lawyer come out publicly taking shots at the government, sounds like he's got everything under control, and then turn around and exit the case, that's not a normal sequence of events. Now, before we jump to conclusions, let's walk through this the right way, because this story didn't start with him leaving. The story started with confidence.
What we didn't hear today is there is no contract, this mystery contract. They have no contract. They have no video of this alleged signing of a contract. They have no guns, they have no jewelry, they have none of that physical evidence. What they have is they have allegedly 5 individuals, one of them being a very well-known individual that is allegedly cooperating with the government and making these allegations against my client and many more. I'm going to take like 1 or 2 questions and then we're going to scoop.
You're essentially arguing they've got he said kind of case, no evidence.
Correct. Yeah, it's very fair. I think that this is it's a he said type of a case. I mean, obviously, there's 5 individuals on one side. What we're missing are the other people that were present in the room, right? The owner of the studio who says he didn't hear anything or see anything. The way they leave the studio, where no one is in concert with anybody else, no one's arguing with anyone else. One of the individuals says, "Hey, can I get my watches back?"
Coming back from that, you can hear exactly how he was approaching the case. He wasn't hesitant. He wasn't uncertain. He was very clear in his position that the government's case has issues. He talked about the complaint being messy. He talked about a lack of hard evidence. And he basically framed this as something that wasn't what it was being made out to be. And that kind of confidence does 2 things. It reassures your client and it shapes public perception. But it also creates expectations. Because once you come out like that, people expect you to stand on it. Now let's get to the part where everything started feeling different.
I believe they say that the ankle monitor was used to track him and William Sr. to a Staples, and the allegation was there that they went to a Staples early in the day to print off that agreement, to print off the contractual release paperwork that they say they were forcing RD to later sign. And the feds also claim that the surveillance video and the GPS data, they put them there. So talk to me about the ankle monitor.
Sure. First, let me just address the Staples thing. Like, I don't even care if they're at Staples. Like, they're going to a recording studio, and normally my clients usually print off the lyrics for different individuals. If you have 5 individuals that are going to be on one record and they each have a section or a part, they'll usually print those things off. So I really didn't care about the Staples thing.
This is where the narrative started losing people, because the explanation didn't line up with how things actually work today. Most artists are not going to a Staples to print lyrics. They recording off their phone, they punching in. They're not walking into Staples for a purpose like that. And again, this is not about whether it's legally possible. It's about how it sounds to anybody listening. When your defense starts sounding disconnected from reality, it don't just raise eyebrows. It starts to chip away at your credibility. And that's important, because in a case like this, credibility matters just as much as strategy. Once people start questioning your explanations, everything else you say gets looked at different. Now here's where the real shift happened.
All right, let's talk Pooh Shiesty. Quick update on Pooh Shiesty's case. I am just leaving Tennessee, actually, on a different federal case. But I will be withdrawing off the case. No implications of me withdrawing off the case. I still think it's a great case. I think there's a lot of holes in it. I think the government has a lot of explaining to do on the case. But I will be substituting in will be Dan Codgel, who's a fantastic lawyer, and Kent Schaefer, who's also a fantastic lawyer, both from Dallas. I think they're going to do a phenomenal job on the case. I think it's one of those cases where once you start really screwing down on the information, the facts, I think that a lot's going to be coming out that will be beneficial to the defense. I think they're going to do a great job, and I look forward to seeing how the case winds up.
Now this is the moment that changes everything, because you don't see an attorney come out this strong publicly and then step away this fast without something changing behind the scenes. And I'm not about to sit here and act like we know exactly what that is. But what I am going to say is that it raises real questions, because now it's not about whether the government was right or wrong. It's about why the energy changed so fast from confidence to exit. And when that happens in a federal case, that's not something you just ignore like it don't mean nothing. And there are only a few realistic reasons for a move like this. Either there's a conflict that couldn't be worked through, or there's information that made him reevaluate his position. But notice what I'm not doing. I'm not jumping to say this case is strong or weak because we don't have that information yet. What we do have is a lawyer that was very publicly confident, deciding he no longer wants to be attached to it. And that alone is enough to shift how people look at the situation. Because whether you like it or not, perception matters just as much as facts when these cases play out in public. Now let's add another layer to this, because this part can't be ignored either. There are rumors of a possible conflict of interest based on past industry relationships. And if that's true, stepping away may not even be about the case itself.
Pooh Shiesty update. His celebrity lawyer Bradford Cohen announcing that he's withdrawing from representing Pooh Shiesty. This begs the question, is Pooh broke and can't afford his celebrity lawyer anymore? Luckily for Pooh, the report is out of who his new lawyers are going to be. You've probably seen this guy. This guy's coming in to represent Pooh Shiesty. He's wildly popular on the internet for his podcast. I can tell you one thing about him. This brother is not cheap, okay? And he's got a partner. There's going to be 2 superstar lawyers representing Pooh. Pooh is locked and loaded with plenty of cash for his defense if this is the guy he's bringing in. The other big question here is why the change in the lawyer? Well, if I had to guess, Brad Cohen, who has been representing celebrities for the past decade, probably has a lot of contacts throughout the industry and might not be the right lawyer for a case that's going to involve on one side an industry rapper and on the other side an industry victim. So ultimately, what's going to happen in this case, I think you're going to see some motions to dismiss early on where they're going to challenge, does this even really belong in federal court? It's a kidnapping case. What's it doing in federal court? And then we're going to see if anybody flips. If one of the 9-10 people that were there with Pooh start pointing the finger at Pooh, is going to be a problem. If they all stand tall, you could see this thing go to trial. Even after trial, the game's not over. You've seen a lot of rappers work on pardons, although looking at the lawyer that he just brought in, that lawyer talks a lot of shit about Trump. I don't think he's going to be angling for a pardon anytime.
It may be about protecting professional positioning, but even if that's the case, it still doesn't erase what happened early on. You still stood in front of cameras. You still set a tone, and you still created an expectation that you were going to see this through. And when you don't, people are going to start to question why. Now let's bring this back to the bigger picture, because this is what I want my audience to understand. Federal cases are not built for the public. They're built behind closed doors. And by the time you start seeing moves like this, the real conversation has already happened out of sight. And that's why you got to read actions more than words, because anybody can sound confident on day one. But when the position changes, that's when you start seeing what's really going on. So what does that leave Pooh Shiesty right now? It leaves him in a position where his defense has to switch up midstream during a federal case. And that's not ideal for anybody. New attorneys have to come in and get up to speed and figure out a strategy without the benefit of that original momentum. And that's why this moment matters. Not because we know the outcome, but because we see the shift. And in a case like this, the shift is sometimes more important than anything that's been said publicly. This ain't about picking sides. This is about paying attention. And right now, if you're paying attention, you can see clearly that something changed. We just don't know exactly what that is yet. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Established Rich. I'll be back with another one. Hey.